Hello, I'm Lewis Adams. Welcome to Local Chats. We're here with Cable Williams. How you doing, man?
Hey, yeah, good, thanks, man. Yourself?
Oh, I'm good, I'm good. Now, you make a web series.
Yeah, so we just recently started a web series called Elves, Dragons Orcs, and we're just released our second episode. And yeah, it's been great fun so far. Elves, Dragons and Orcs is a series that sort of just got born out of a general interest of the fantasy genre. You know, the whole idea is I want to explore why the fantasy genre is so effective and what it does to its audience, and you know how it's used in modern entertainment.
What kind of examples have you found? Because it's fantasy is pretty much everywhere at the moment, everywhere you look.
Definitely.
Whereas 20, 25 years ago, as an example, you sort of have to open the doors to find it.
Yeah, of course. Well, I don't know, the fantasy genre today is, like you said, it's extremely vast, very broad, and you know, I used to play Magic the Gathering in high school, and you know, I used to watch anime and all that sort of stuff, and it's such a broad genre. I just wanted to find out exactly why people love it so much. I guess also find out why I love it so much. Enough to do a show on it, at least.
Well, that's great. And we are talking about a whole series. It's just not just like a singular documentary. So like, you know, a whole series implies that there are several different aspects you can focus on.
Yeah, of course. So the first two episodes we've checked out so far, well, the first being the Magic the Gathering Origins pre-release, which I just happened to stumble upon when I popped into Guff Games and Bendigo. So that was interesting. I was kind of awoken an old interest of mine in Magic, and I was like, I haven't played Magic in years. This is the perfect spot to start my show. And then from there, we've branched out into the second episode. We went and checked out Swordcraft Bendigo and Laughing. And in the future, we're hoping to take it into all other aspects, such as art, music, literature, TV, hopefully, eventually, and just see where it goes.
The first two episodes of Magic and Swordcraft, they're very different, but I guess the one thing at least those two have in common is that they're about some sort of conflict or some sort of combat. Is that a big thing in fantasy?
Oh, of course. I don't know, whenever you talk about the fantasy genre with anyone, they always think epic battles, you know, mystical creatures, magic, all those sorts of things are really quite prevalent in fantasy genre. And I think it's from what I've definitely heard from the interviews in the series is that that's what draws people to fantasy, you know, heroism or the complete opposite, you know, these vast extremities of our imagination.
What were the first fantasy things that drew you to it? You mentioned you did used to play Magic like back in the day. What other stuff?
Well, that's a question I always ask all my guests that I have on the show. They always look at me puzzled, like, what was my first introduction to fantasy? I have to say, when I was really young, I have a dad that's a massive movie buff.
Yep.
And he introduced me to Conan the Barbarian and all that sort of stuff. But when I was quite young, but I'd have to say, my father took me to a stage play of The Hobbit when I would have been about 9 years old.
Oh, that sounds cool.
And it was all puppeteered, you know, the smile came out over the audience and breathed smoke in your face, and it was absolutely amazing. And then, you know, of course I hadn't read any Tolkien. I was way too young at that stage, and you know, from then on, Dad every night would read The Hobbit to me, and then when we came to The Hobbit, moved on to Lord of the Rings, and from there, just obsessed.
Also, so did he read you the entire saga from The Hobbit,
all
the way
Hobbit,
to Return of the King?
Yeah, from The Hobbit to the Return of the King, start to the end.
How long did that take?
I don't know, but I'm very, very thankful he did. And then I was one of the few of my friends that when Jackson started doing the trilogy or the original, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I was like, that's different. That's different. All my friends are like, what? You actually read? I'm like, well, not anymore, but Dad read them to me. I'm pretty sure I know what's going on here. Nah, Lord of the Rings is The Hobbit was definitely where it started, and the stage play, and then my dad reading to me as a child, and then going throughout the trilogy of Lord of the Rings.
You'd probably be one of the few people that experienced The Hobbit before Lord of the Rings. The movies of Lord of the Rings were made quite a number of years before the Hobbit movies.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was quite an odd thing that Jackson did go back and decide to split the Hobbit up into, make 3 films. And I have to admit, I don't like them as much as the Lord of the Rings trilogy. There was magic in that. It's the first time, as far as I'm concerned, that we saw fantasy on that scale on the big screen.
Taking your mind back to when the first Lord of the Rings movie came out, did you sort of feel something that was yours was now everybody's?
I completely disconnected it from the books.
Yep.
I just, been a long time since I'd read it, but they were still very prevalent in my mind. I went into the cinema, as I try and do with every movie that I go and see, blank sheet of paper, go in, take it for what it is, and not try and say, it wasn't as good as the book. You're just ruining the experience there. I think with any film, you need to just go in with an open mind and just accept it for what it is. And the Lord of the Rings trilogy by Jackson and Weta Workshops is just a masterpiece of cinema.
It's a tale that's sort of that epic. It would have been very hard to do the book justice on the screen and try and sort of match it.
Mm.
You've really got to have your own interpretation.
Working off something that's already been written as a novel is always going to be very difficult to match what your fans of the novel.
Yep.
You bring something completely different. It's a different medium. You have to explain things through a visual medium instead of on the page.
Oh yeah, let's get back to the show, Elves, Dragons, and Orcs. What was the original inspiration to start it?
Original inspiration for Elves, Dragons, and Orcs was I just needed to do something different in my day-to-day life. So, I'm a news cameraman. That's my full-time job. And I just needed to find something creative that I was passionate about, fantasy genre, and find a way that I could make something out of it and turn it into something to share with everyone else.
I guess as a news cameraman, you're bringing some expertise to it as well. Like you actually do have some background in production.
I worked on my first short film when I was like 14 years old.
Yep.
And then, with a film buff for a dad, I just fell in love. That eventually led to me finishing up school, going off to study multimedia, got a job in news as a cameraman, and, so it's been, many, many years of building up expertise and knowledge in this area, and, film and television would have to be my number one passion and love.
Yep.
I feel that, if I can try and channel those things that I've learned into a project of my own instead of just doing work for other people, which is what I've always done, start my own project, see where I can take it, and see if I can take those tools that I've learned and grown into something else. I've got a crew that I work with at the moment. I'm just not just one man show. So I've got my mate Lenny Taus, who's second cameraman, and also helps me with editing and special effects.
Yep.
I've got my girlfriend Natalie. She does all my you haven't spelt this right. make sure I'm in line, and
the proofreading.
Yeah, does all my proofreading, helps me with my scripts. And, also helps me with all the social media marketing and all that sort of stuff. And then my other mate, John Latimer, who's just finished special effects makeup school. And hopefully we'll be able to bring a bit of that into Elves, Dragons and Orcs down the track.
Where do you want to ultimately take this? 3 years down the line, I want to be on primetime television. Yeah.
Look, I don't think for me, I love film as a medium. I don't think I'd ever dream of seeing Elves, Dragons and Orcs in the form that it is on TV. And with the TV industry going as it is at the moment, it's not web's the way to go these days. And the fact that I can make whatever I want, whenever I want, and I don't have to get a producer to tell me if it's right or wrong. I can just get it out there. But look, with Elves, Dragons and Orcs, the hope for the show is that I'll be able to first get it past its first season, which I'm looking at about 6 to 7 episodes.
Yep.
So that's the first season. After that, during that time, I'm hoping to also splinter off and do some other love projects, which are based around Elves, Dragons and Orcs. So, hoping to do maybe some short films, maybe go to some events, some other large-scale events, and do some more review-based sort of thing, and grow the audience. That's the number one thing that we hope for the future, is that we can grow the audience, and not just have it as a show, but as a community where people can come and talk about the fantasy genre.
And that is definitely something that you see with fantasy genre, is that community. Like you have these large conventions where just like all these people are just coming together and they're talking about fantasy, and not just fantasy. Like you got science fiction, comic books.
The first 2 episodes that we did was Magic the Gathering Origins pre-release, and then the second episode, Swordcraft Bendigo. I've coming in and getting engrossed in these environments. I find myself just I want to be a part of that. I want to get in there. I want to play. So unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to play Magic again or to join up with Swordcraft Bendigo. But I am hopefully planning to do both in the near future. As soon as I finished shooting the Origins pre-release episode, I went home and I was like, I have to find my old Magic decks. Where are they? I called up Dad on the phone 10:30 at night, and I'm just like, Dad, do you know where my old Magic the Gatherings cards are? He's like, can you go through the shed and find them? I need them. I need them here with me. And then we went and decided on episode 2 being with Swordcraft Bendigo, and I got out there in the field with these guys running around with a camera, and I'm like, I just want to put the camera down and pick up a sword and shield.
Did you get to do that?
No, not yet. I've had to play. And when we did the filming on Saturday for that episode, I had a little bit of a hit with a friend and just had a muck around behind the scenes, and it's so much fun. These communities are filled with people that are caring, loving, great friendships and a real sense of adventure. And that's what I want to bring to the screen in Elves, Dragons and Orcs. I want to make sure that everyone knows that these communities are out there. They're filled with people, some less than others, but they're filled with people like-minded that want to experience these things. And I want to expose them. I want to get them known and hopefully help, as our community grows with Elves, Dragons and Orcs, I hope that the communities that we get into will grow as well.
Well, there are so many fascinating subcultures. Like as an example, the Swordcraft, the LARPing as it's sort of known as. That's such a sort of huge world, and a lot of people just don't really realize is there.
Oh yeah.
Like I think I've done it once.
Yeah,
I did it. This friend of a friend of mine used to run him in his backyard.
Yep.
So I got invited around. And the first time I did it, the guy who was running it, he's this 6 foot whatever big guy, full beard.
Yeah.
And I had to fight him with these foam weapons, and I just have this image of him charging at me, screaming, with this battle cry, and fight or flight response clicked in.
Mm-hmm.
I lost that round.
Oh, well, doesn't matter. You get back up and you give it another go.
Yep, that's right. But having done it, it is a lot of fun. I think a lot of the stigma associated with a lot of the fantasy sort of the subcultures is moving away, and it's very good to see.
Yeah, it's become so much more of a norm to have a fantasy in everyday life. Like the popularity of Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings and all those sort of things. It's becoming more and more common to see fantasy in everything that we do. You pick up your mobile phone, you download a game to play on your phone, guaranteed there's going to be a fantasy aspect to it of some sort.
Hitting some foam swords with your friends or playing some cards. It's really not that much different from say playing a computer game or reading a book. It's like a pastime, and it's a form of escapism.
It is, and that's what I'm hearing the most when we ask questions about the question we always ask in every episode of Elf Dragons and Orcs is, what is the fantasy genre to you? What does it mean to you? And you'll hear things about community, friendship, and escapism. They're the 3 main responses that we always get. The opportunity to step out of your normal everyday life and either take on a role of a character or join a character on an adventure in something that you just don't get to experience in everyday life.
Thank you, Cable. It has been great having a local chat with you.
No problem.
And for those at home who are interested in watching Elves, Dragons and Orcs, or if they just want to send you an email or something, how do they do that?
So if you want to get in contact with me, my name's Cable Williams. You can find me on Facebook, or you can just like the Elves, Dragons and Orcs Facebook community page. You can find us on YouTube, again, at Elves Dragons and Orcs. I'd love to hear anything, any comments, suggestions for future episodes, anything you can think of. I'd love to hear it.
If you're doing something cool in the fantasy genre that you would like Cable to do, come and film or focus an episode on, I'm sure I'd love to hear it.
Oh, of course. LARPing and trading card games are not the only things we want to look at. If you're an artist, if you're a musician, even if you're just running, a local Warhammer comp, please get in contact with me. I'd love to hear what you've got happening around the Central Victorian region.
And this has been Local Chats. Thank you, Cable. Once again, you can find this episode plus other episodes on www.thenewlocal.net. Find us on Twitter at thenewlocal, and we've got a Patreon now. The links should be just underneath this video, so just scroll down and click some links. Thank you.